You're watching Victory Life Today with Al and Angie Buhrke.
Welcome to Victory Life Today. I'm Al Buhrke.
And I'm Angie Buhrke. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to be continuing our series on how to position ourselves for God's blessings and miracles. And it is possible to do that, isn't it, Al?
Yeah.
And we always want to talk about the waterfall at the beginning where God is constantly pouring out his blessings on us, but sometimes we walk away from his blessings. We don't even realize it. You know, when we stop doing the things we're supposed to be doing.
We're walking away. It isn't like God diverts the waterfall someplace else.
Right.
You know, or it stops the waterfall. It's always flowing. His blessings are always flowing, but we miss them.
Yeah, because we leave.
Because we leave.
We leave. It's not that we turn against God or anything. We just, we're giving and now we're stopping the giving. And so that's kind of what, so how do you expect a blessing if you stop your giving? That's just a quick example.
Yeah.
But anyway, we always want to stay under the waterfall of blessings, and there are ways to do it. And we have a scripture here today, the story of blind Bartimaeus, and how he positioned himself for an incredible miracle and blessings in his life. You know, I think he's one of the best examples because he had what we're talking about now is unstoppable, aggressive faith. There was nothing you could do to this man to change his mind about what he wanted, which was to see. So we're going to start reading in Mark chapter 10. Let me read you the story and then we'll go over it. Then they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, wow, he just got in there and he's walking right out. Blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat along the way begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many ordered him to keep silent, but he cried out even more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still. He heard him and commanded him to be called. So they called the blind man, saying, "Be of good comfort, rise, he is calling you." Throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. Jesus answered him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "Rabbi, that I might receive my sight." Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your faith has made you well." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the way. So we'll start out about what he was doing.
You know, Bartimaeus was a beggar. He was a beggar. But you see, in those days, there was no government programs. There was no
for not working.
There was no social. There was nothing. And many times people would get sick, and they were responsible, good people in this culture. And they would get sick and couldn't work anymore, and they would lose it all, and they were beggars. And they were not looked down upon as they are in this culture when they're beggars. It's like, what are you doing? This is a terrible thing. They weren't looked down on the same way because they weren't seen the same.
Okay.
Do you understand? They didn't look down on them with the same down. It was like, hey, he lost his sight. He can't work anymore. We're helping him. It wasn't like you're a beggar.
So it was something you did if you couldn't work. You just begged.
What else were you going to do?
Yeah.
If your family won't take care of you, or if your family can't take care of you, you're going to wind up begging. And that's what was done in that. Wow. And also, you know, when you read that and it said throwing off his coat, that coat was a sign, I can't work.
Right. We're going to get to that because when he throws that off, that is just the amazing part. So
there weren't any government programs to help them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
he begged because he needed to eat. You know what I mean? I know somebody that's like that. I know a gentleman, and he has a passion for making money. He wants to be rich. He wants to be a rich man. And he's doing everything possible. He's motivated. The point is, this motivation. He's getting all the education he needs. He's making the sacrifices he needs. In other words, he's working hard all the time. He's always at it. And he's, desire. God can use your desire to bring about the proper result in your life, because when you are strong desire and motivated, that's something God can use to move you along. But if you're not motivated and you have no desire, it's like, whatever.
Oh,
I don't
that's
care.
really good.
He'll use that desire like, hey, I can get you here, Al. If you'll do this, I can get you under that waterfall.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
That's good. Well, I thought that, like today, Beggars, like we'll go back to looking down on them. I think the people back then, they were just so used to seeing him, they just kind of just kept going.
Well,
but they were really no importance to society whatsoever.
I
mean, they were just...
They weren't going to do anything.
Right. So the people passing by. I remember, Al, this lady that I knew when I was going to a certain church, she had her problems, okay? She came to the church. She was in desperate need. Her hair was a mess. She was always scratching herself. She would always talk fast. She had a son. She was a single parent, and she was trying to raise this son the right way. And I took her under my wing because I felt the Lord sent her to me, and we would even help her together. We would pay some of her bills and help her around Christmas time. And the son, we would babysit for him and give her all this counsel and all this help. And I remember I worked at a church at the time, and one day she came in a little bit late, and it was a full packed out church, and I was in the back. Okay, as the people were coming in, I was in the front. What do you want to call it? Back or front, whatever. And she came in, and there were no place. I watched her go in, and so she sat at the very last row in the middle, and there was a seat there. And I noticed right next to that seat was an elder, and I knew the woman and everything. And so she walked in and she sat down right next to that elder. And Al, I saw this as clear as that. You should have seen the face of the elder. And I'm not putting down elders per se, okay? But this particular woman despised her. And I didn't realize it until then. And she had been around the church for a couple of years. And she literally moved over a little bit so not to touch her. And granted, she wasn't, someone that you would want to be around long term.
I
but
know what you mean.
She really, really, really looked down on her because you know why? And the church kind of a little bit did that too, because she was of no use to them. She was of no use to them. So this is the same thing that happened to Bartimaeus. Imagine how Bartimaeus felt hearing about Jesus' miracles. Man, he must have been so frustrated at times knowing that he wanted this healing but could not get to Jesus.
Yeah, he couldn't see.
But he could hear, And Al, I bet he was hoping, I bet he was praying that this man, Jesus, would walk by him one day. And I bet you he had ears tuned into it, because really he had a plan. He had a plan of what he would do if he heard that Jesus was around him. And it's obvious that he had a plan. So he was already, this man, even though he was blind, even if you're blind, you can position yourself for a miracle. And by planning, he planned that if I hear this, then I'm going to do something about it. And we're going to see what he did in a little bit. And you have plans.
Yeah, one of the things is we make our plans, but God directs our path. In other words, a man makes his plans, but God can change these things. And we need to be open to how God changes our plans. But, I have a plan in my mind for unexpected circumstances. And this is so funny because I'll say it this way. What would you do? And I don't really ever get into this, but what would you do if somebody walked up to you, especially with right now as we film this and all the riots going on?
Oh, yes.
And someone pointed a gun at you and said, give me all your money. What would you do? Would you, most people would go, oh man, wait a minute, let me think. I think there's a scripture for this. Right? Oh, do I have my Bible on me? Let me read something. There's no time for this. You need to be on it. And I have planned it out. If somebody ever walked up to me and pointed a gun at me and said, give me your money, I would go off on him. He wouldn't know what happened to him. I would say, Satan, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You get out of that. I have a plan already set. I would say, Satan, you come out of that man right now. And one of the things I've learned over the years, You take somebody, when the demon comes out of them, you could see their face. It's like, what am I doing?
Yes.
You could see it. They're like, oh my God, why am I trying to shoot you? And they just walk away. I've seen it happen because it's the demon that's working them. Now, if they don't get born again, the demon just comes back. But anyway, I have a plan. I'm prepared on how I'm going to react to certain unforeseen situations because you don't have time.
And it's not like you go around wondering and planning about, you're not in fear, but you know what you would do.
I'm not in fear, but I don't on purpose put myself in those situations. But, this is what I would do. And it's all planned out. I got it set.
And that's what I think Bartimaeus was doing, because when he heard Jesus, he cried out. And so that tells me he was waiting to hear.
He had a plan.
I could just imagine him, Al. This is what I've been waiting for. Is that him?
Yeah.
Is that him? I hear people saying, Jesus, is that him? And he was motivated now to get Jesus's attention because he wanted to see. So this is what I love about Bartimaeus. He didn't settle for his blindness. And you would think if you're just listening to this because you're blind and you know people that are blind, it's very easy to settle into that. I can see that, especially being blind for years and years. But Bartimaeus was not going to settle for it. And he never, according to this whole story, never, as far as I can see, became comfortable with being blind.
Right.
And that's why
he got the miracle. In this day and age, especially, people get comfortable. They go, because there's so much government programs, they get comfortable with just like, well, I'm done. I can't see. I'm just going to. I know somebody in particular, and he's just kind of goes with the flow. And if he has problems, it's like, oh, well, I'll just live with it and go on. And that's not I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just not a godly response. A godly response is, I'm blind and I won't be blind anymore, and God's going to fix it.
It's almost a selfish response, because really, if you were well, you could go out and make money and help other people. Yeah. It's almost like a lazy, selfish kind of thinking.
Yeah, well, it's like I'm the one who's poor and needy, and now you guys all have to take care of me. I know somebody, she was in a wheelchair, and I said to her, we can pray for you and get you out of this thing. And she said, I had to think about it. Because everybody takes such good care of me and everybody helps me and I get all this government money. And, in my mind, it's like, what? You have to think about this? But she was like lazy.
That's right. And we're going to go over some of the reasons why Christians settle.
Well, the first one is they're sick. They're sick or poor either because they don't know God's promises, or if they do know them, they're too lazy or even this woman was too fearful to come out of that wheelchair.
Wow.
She was like, well, I don't know. I have to get up and do the dishes. She was lazy. The second one is a victim mentality. Yeah. That's big in this culture. That's promoted. In other words, all this, this is the cross I have to bear. Oh,
I'll get my reward in heaven.
Yeah. Oh. And it goes on and on and on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, they wear it as a badge.
Yeah.
Like, look at the problems. Look how God beat me all up, and I have this badge saying I survived, and I'm still a believer. Well, it's your enemy that tries you.
That's right.
It's the devil that beats you all up. Quit blaming God for this. He's the one who gets you out of it.
That's right. And that's what the third one here is, that we believe it's God's will to be sick and poor, so they kind of accept it.
I know somebody one day who said to me, he said, I don't, there's nothing in prosperity I want. So I said, well, you're an idiot.
And he did say that.
So, I always say it's easy to be poor. You know what I mean? So anyway, he had his reasons, but he kind of felt like I'd get too much into pride with it. You know what I mean? But when you understand God brought the prosperity to you, what are you so proud about?
You won't be.
Yeah, people say to me, "Oh, what did you do? How did you prosper?" And all these kind of things. And the truth of the matter is, I just believed what the Bible said and started tithing. It wasn't any great genius or wonderment on my part. I just was obedient to what the Scripture said.
That's good.
And some believe God's teaching them a lesson by doing all of this. There's some kind of some people believe God's teaching them a lesson through this trial, that they would be he'd be putting them through this and keeping them there. I remember people saying when I fell and broke my hip, someone called you and said, Al needs to, God did this to him. Oh, thanks. I think if God broke my hip, I think I need another God. I think I need a better one. I got to find God a little smarter, or who can protect me anyway. Yeah. And she said, Al needs to slow down and to spend more time with God, which at that time in my life, I didn't need to spend more time with God, if you can believe that. I was constant, and I didn't need to slow down. I needed to speed up.
Yes.
So she had no clue.
Yeah.
And they immediately assumed these things.
Right.
She didn't barely knew me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like God's going to make you strong through this trial. He's going to, point number 5, he's going to beat you up.
That's crazy. Trials, they wear me out. I mean, I don't like trials. I don't accept them. I don't embrace them. They wear me out. They make me tired. They make me depressed. So the thing that gets me through the trials are the promises of God within His Word. That keeps you strong through it.
Yeah.
But nobody can say that they like trials.
Well, I said this before, it's your enemy who tries you.
Right.
God isn't, it's this crazy, like God made me sick so He could heal me. Well, what is that? And that's what they do. You know what I mean?
I know.
And it's like, yes, you're going to have trials. And the devil's putting the trials on you because he's trying to knock you out of Christianity, not make you stronger.
That's
now,
right.
It can make you stronger. You can come through that,
yes,
and be stronger, saying, okay, this is what the devil did to me. Now I'm on to his schemes.
That's right. And it talks about that in James chapter 1, about how you will be made perfect. But Bartimaeus, he wasn't going to settle for anything less than being totally restored. And I love that about him. And I don't think anyone out there should be settling for anything less than what God has, because God has the absolute best for you. And you know where you're at. You know the areas that you're failing. You know what's going on in your body, whatever it is. And God's got better for you. He's got the best for you. And there are ways to position yourself for them. So here Jesus was providing something for Bartimaeus, and Bartimaeus used faith to receive it, because Jesus was already giving out the healing. He was the healer. And whoever wanted it got it.
This whole thing that God showed me about receiving is the key to this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's receiving the healing.
Right.
As you would say, the waterfall's already falling. It's getting under it. You need to learn how to receive your healing.
That's awesome.
And we're going to talk
Bartimaeus
about
was
that.
already, and look what Mark 10:48 says. Many charged him that he should hold his peace. Bartimaeus actually got in trouble for yelling out, "Help me, Jesus, have mercy on me, Son of David." They were anointed him and they rebuked him. He was yelling loud and they wanted him quiet. And I love this because he was already blind. Now they wanted him mute. Yeah. They wanted him to shut up. Oh, I know.
And the people who ridiculed him were the church in that setting.
Yes, but we got to move along here because anyway, but he cried out. Here's what they did when they rebuked him. He cried out even more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And I want you to look at this word "cried out," because it means to croak as a raven. I mean, think about that. It means to scream, to call out loud, to exclaim, to shriek. So he even did it over and over again, more and more and more. And he was out to get this. This is aggressive. This is unstoppable faith. And he maintained his position until he got what he came for. And this is the attitude we should have as Christians. This is the kind of faith he's looking for, the kind of faith that Bartimaeus has. And Jesus hears faith. And he certainly yelled loud enough for Jesus to hear him. And Jesus stopped in his tracks. He heard that. He heard the faith. Now, Bartimaeus was singled out because Jesus heard of that unstoppable faith. He knew, he could tell the aggressiveness in that. And look at this, it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that comes to God must believe that he is, and he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." And that's what Bartimaeus was portraying right there. And I love the part about the garment, because this is what we want to get into. Jesus called Bartimaeus, and when he heard it, he did something absolutely amazing. And I'll talk about it here. He casted off his garment, which I want you to go into some detail here about what that really could have been. And I've got some ideas here too.
Well,
now understand, this was before he received his sight.
Right. He didn't do it after he received his sight. He threw it off first.
And what did that garment?
Well, the garment signified this guy's blind. So when you saw that, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It was just a sign to someone, hey, this guy's blind and he's going to walk right into you.
And sometimes they said that he used that garment to gather up the coins. Whatever it was,
right.
People knew.
We don't really know.
People knew when they saw that garment that symbolized what he was going
blind.
through. But here's what I love. Bartimaeus no longer wanted to be identified as a blind beggar before he even was able to see. He said, I'm done with this. I am done with this. Are you done with what you're going through? Are you done with being depressed and sad and anxious all the time? Are you done with being poor and sick? I mean, you have to really come to terms with it. What is it that you want? And do you want it enough to just put everything aside and say, I am going after this? This has to be the life of a Christian, Al.
Yeah.
We have to go after it.
And you got to learn how to maintain, because sometimes you're going to have to go after it for a long time, and that's okay. You still have to maintain. You got to be aggressive through it all. I remember when we had at God's Barn, we had a lady in a wheelchair, and Pastor Bobby walked up to her and he said, "Can you walk at all?" Because some people can. And she said, "No." And he grabbed her hands and he said, "Get up." And she stood right up.
I remember.
She was pumped and primed and ready. She was going to walk. And she did. She walked. She walked out of that. Then I took her and helped her.
That's amazing.
Got her going more and got her walking. But that's the kind of faith. She didn't say, no, I can't walk at all, and don't even bother me. I know I'll never get out of this thing, or any of that, the stuff we've been talking. She was aggressive.
Yeah, she was. She needed a little help.
She needed help. Sometimes we need help. We need someone to come by.
And that was quite a testimony, really, that night. And it helped quite a few people who, in fact, one person came in and said, I'm not going to really believe this stuff unless I see. I couldn't believe it that night unless I see an actual miracle. And they were sitting in the back. This was amazing.
Somebody said to me, listen, I know you're good guys and all this stuff, but I don't believe in any of these miracles. I said, well, no, there's a lot of, I have to see it for myself. So, well, whatever, okay. So he sits down, and he's in the last row, and she was right there in a wheelchair. He was right there. And Pastor Bobby walked up to her and said, can you walk at all? No. Get up. And she stood up. He heard her say, I cannot walk at all.
Right.
He saw it for
himself. It was awesome.
If you have someone that says things like that to you, well, like, I'm not going to believe this unless I see it. All you have to do is pray for him and say, Lord, I'm praying for so-and-so that you would do something in accordance with what they can believe and understand right in front of their face. It'll change them. It changed him. That changed his life. He was like, oh my God.
Yes.
Because he saw it firsthand,
Yeah. Well, what Bartimaeus, this is really awesome faith, because what Bartimaeus was doing, he was believing, Al, in something that he didn't see yet by casting that garment.
Right.
I mean, that's faith, seeing something before you see it.
You think about it, if you throw the garment off, you're believing for your sight, your healing, because if you don't get your healing, where is it? Did somebody steal it, or is it? Where is that garment? You have to get somebody to get it for you now.
Nothing was going to stop him.
You know what I mean? And I think most of us, we kind of would take it half off and hold it.
Well, I remember I prayed for a man at a Gospel Truth seminar, and I remember, he came up with a cane, and he was able to walk out of that building. I walked behind him holding the cane, and everybody was looking. He got healed, and he was walking out without the cane. And it was really just a nasty cane. It wasn't even a nice cane. And I'm holding it up, and everybody's cheering because he's walking out. And we get out to the door, and he says, can I have my cane back? And I said, wait a minute. First of all, it looked like really, oh no, it belongs in my family. Generation to generation.
The next generation won't be walking.
That's another story. But I said, you don't need this cane anymore. We're going to put it over there with all the other canes and all the other wheelchairs that people left here, And he says, no, I can't do that to my family, So he took that and he kept it just in case. And that's quite different than what we see here with Bartimaeus, that he would have thrown his cane away if he had a cane,
Yeah,
but
I don't need that
really
anymore.
what he was doing, Bartimaeus here, he was just positioning himself for a miracle. And that's what you do. It's aggressive, unstoppable faith.
If you think about it, the fact that you even asked him, do you want your cane back? It's almost like ridiculous in a way. It's like you're walking away and you're
No, I didn't ask him. He said, can I have my cane back? I was holding the cane.
But
Yeah, I'm sorry
ridiculous.
if I said that. Yeah, he said, can I have my cane back?
It's like, well, what
And I
for?
said, well,
you can't walk?
yeah. But anyway, it's okay. It takes people time. We're not judging them or anything,
Right.
but this is what got Bartimaeus his sight.
I would have said, hey, give me my cane back. I'm going to sell it to somebody who can't walk.
Bartimaeus positioned himself by hearing, believing, listening for Jesus, calling out, casting his garment, and confessing. And I really encourage all of you to do the same thing and just give up on the questions, give up on the worries, give up on the fears, and rise up right now and take the authority that God gave you. You have a responsibility to use that authority to be aggressive. I don't care if you have it doesn't matter what kind of personality you have. You need to stand up for what's rightfully yours. Go to victorylifeministries.org today and get your copy of Ready, Set, Receive, and learn how to position yourself for blessings and miracles. This story is in this book, among other stories that we've got here too, to help you to learn how to position yourself. God is good and he wants to give you his best. Go to victorylifeministries.org today and get your copy. And that was quite a teaching, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, victory is always yours through Jesus Christ. We'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Pastor Scott Barretto of Palm City, Florida, and I'd like to introduce you to a new book by my pastor, Al Buhrke, Walking by Faith into Prosperity. Let me tell you, this is a fantastic book. Not only that, it's like a living epistle of the consistent lifestyle of love and giving that Al and Angie Buhrke have walked in their entire life, what they believed in and how that produced abundance and blessing into their life. It's not a how-to book, more so about the mechanics of giving and the 100-fold return, but more covering every area of your life in things that you didn't even consider had to do with receiving blessing. This is so intense. It's a great study on the things of God, the principles of God, and having the right heart towards giving and receiving the blessing and living the blessed, abundant life Jesus died for you to have. Listen, go to victorylifeministries.org and get your copy today of Walking by Faith into Prosperity. God bless you.